I love Shogun. Now, Shogun, this is actually a well, I don't even want to call it a reboot, but it sounds like a dirty word, but it's true. A reboot of the original miniseries based on the James Clavell novel. The original Shogun. When I saw that miniseries on, I think I saw it on cable. I was so like impressed with it that I checked the book out of the library, and the book was like this huge, and the librarian's like, well, this is kind of advanced for a fourth grader. I said, I don't freaking care. I want to relive the miniseries. So you get now this version of Shogun that's airing on Hulu and on FX, executive produced by Hiroyuki Sanada. If you do not know who Hiroyuki Sanada is, you need to look him up. He was, well, he was in the probably the best part of the new Mortal Kombat movie. You also saw him in John Wick 4 as well. He's well known in Japanese cinema, and
Rush Hour 3.
yeah, Rush Hour 3. They knocked this out of the park. I mean, with the storytelling, with the fact that so much of it is told in English subtitles, but you don't even freaking care because the acting is so good and the sets are amazing. The costuming, I didn't. If this series does not win an Emmy for costuming, they got freaking robbed. They absolutely got robbed, and you just get so wrapped up in the storytelling because it's the storytelling that
I think they're going
gets
to be
you.
worried about cultural appropriation accusations.
Nah, not when it's the Japanese guys doing it.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, no, they're not going to push back on this guy. And this is why. With how much Hiroyuki Sanada has been in entertainment, the credibility that he gives to it. Actually, well, I take that back. He did get some pushback because somebody who I forget I forget what I forget what idiot said why aren't there any black people in Shogun? It's like, please get out of here with this. We don't we don't really care about that. Hiroyuki Sanada wanted to make sure. Oh yeah, go look it up. Go research it. Go look it up on Google because I had to clap back at that. I'm like, dang, do we got to be in everything?
Yeah.
Shoot, just enjoy this. And Hiroyuki Sanada wanted to make sure that pretty much all the actors, unless it said so in the book, were Japanese. As many people of Japanese ethnicity working on this series, and he purposely wanted most of the dialogue spoken in Japanese and not the predominantly of it, in English. He was very adamant about that to keep tight control of the quality of the show. And when you see it, now that all episodes are available on FX, it is gorgeous. And it just reminds me of that storytelling where you just get so wrapped up in, like, for example, when I would watch Kung Fu Theater, freaking loved that. Didn't care if it was the subtitles.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
You just loved the absolute story of it.
The best
You
stuff
know?
has subtitles.
Oh, definitely. I have to agree.
Oh. How many of you guys on the panel have seen this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bash.
Well, no, I was just going to say I am super excited to see this series because it sounds just right up my alley right here. I've heard nothing but amazing stuff for this series, and that's the thing about Hiroyuki Sanada. I mean, you remember him from John Wick 4, which is interesting because he's not in that for very long, and he has to make a real impression really fast because, well, unfortunately, for those who haven't seen it, he has an untimely demise pretty early in that film, and yet he makes such an impression with the screen time that he's given. It just tells you just the mark of a fantastic actor, and so to see him in something like this is just it's a real treat. The stories that are surrounding this production have become almost legendary now, and you don't really hear that from a new series. So I'm very excited to dive into this world for sure.
Yeah, I haven't watched this show. I'm it's on my radar. It's one of the things on my list. I have an ever-growing list of things I have to watch, and so every time something good comes out,
Yeah.
I'm always excited. But I'm like, oh no, where am I going to fit this in? But like, just to a broader point, we have definitely seen a very big pushback on stories set in certain cultures or certain time periods and things like that, and them going, hey, this, we're going to cast accurate people to those roles, and we're going to stick to the time periods and the traditions and the story and the history of these times. And there's been this weird pushback because that's antithetical to like what's happening a lot of times, specifically in like America and Hollywood and stuff. Is like, well, you can't do that because we have to have a timeline in a world where everybody gets together and everybody all works together and stuff. And so you see articles, and I know we kind of already joked a little bit, but like, yeah, you see articles like where are all the black people in Shogun and things like that. And I'm like, that's weird. That'd be like setting a story in like Ethiopia and being like, where are all the white folk? Like, you're like, there aren't any. Like, they're not there. They're not supposed to be there. I don't frankly want to see them. Like if but I kind of love, one of the things that people don't seem to realize is like people like in China, a little bit less so, but in Japan and stuff, are very proud of their culture. They're very proud of their history and where they've come from. Even the bad parts of it, they're not quick to shy away from those kind of conversations and stuff. So I kind of love when they're like, you know what, you can't even tell us not to do this because it's not a made up world.
Yes.
Like you guys are doing. This is our world and this is our history. And so to me, that's almost an antidote to what's happening now, because if you tell a story in a historical time based on what's actually going on in that time and what actually happened, and not just fantastical, like adding all these weird decisions. We see that a lot now too, like like the Woman King, and I'm like, that's not even what actually happened in that time. You could have told an interesting story there without needing to like change all the facts of the story. It's like them telling a story about their history means that people get to enjoy how awesome human history is and how amazing these stories are and how amazing some of these dynasties like came to be. So
Yeah, one other thing I want to say about this is that you don't get too many Japanese-led stories in mainstream. So this is really nice. It's not kind of nice, it is very nice to see this. And I think it's very disrespectful to keep trying to change stories, creativity, and also, what people are honestly telling from their heart to fix some sort of politically correct thing. Like that makes it politically wrong, actually. That actually makes it politically wrong. And if you have a story to tell that you want to see told with the people that you want to see on screen, go ahead and tell that story. But to continuously bombard this idea, where's the diversity in the Norsemen? No, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. That's that story for those guys. It's gonna be awesome. But when 100%. You throw in this artificial diversity, it just is jarring and weird. Well, where does this character come from and why are they there? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. 100%.
The director for Northman actually got some flack, right, for defending that whole thing. Like he was asked, "Why is no diversity?" It's like, well it's
he pushed back pretty good. I think he defended his position well, so he took care of that.
I personally thought it's disrespectful to even ask him that question. To be honest,
it is because like as we've talked about before, like if they actually took the time and weren't so lazy and started, getting into like stories within like African culture and African history, which there's a ton of stories and even in myths and fantasies and legends and stuff. It's so many. And if they took the time to actually do any of that, it would break that victim narrative that they constantly trying to push of like, oh, you know what, like sometimes like people that like there's actually successful like stories of people that have like had rich histories and lineages and all that stuff, but they're trying to push this victim narrative all the time. So like it's co-opting other people's stories and going like, well, their stories are more interesting. It's like, well, they're not. They're all these stories are just as interesting as the other ones. It's just that you don't want to take the time to do that. You want to co-opt everyone else's stuff and try to insert yourself into all of that instead of actually taking the time to like know it. Because a lot of these people, and we've all kind of said it before, some of the most racist people out there are the people that are screaming for like diversity and representation, you know, because they think the least of everyone around them, you know. So yeah,
it's just insidious. I mean, because great, obviously I am not Asian, okay, but one of the things that I loved about watching Kung Fu theater was you got immersed in another culture's storytelling. And that was the point. And it's also, to bring up another example, and I'll drag Disney into this because it's freaking perfect. Shang-Chi and the 10 Bracelets. Disney thought that they could make a better Asian-themed martial arts film than the Chinese. And then you had Simu Liu, who basically acted like he was, I think he said something like he was the first Asian martial arts hero. We're just like, bruh, do you not know about Bruce Lee? Do you not know about Jet Li? Do you not know about Donnie Yen? Do you not know,
Jackie
about
Chan.
Well, he was the first,
Jackie Chan.
Remember, he was but then they had to frame it like, well, he was actually the first Asian superhero starring in his own film, which he wasn't, because we also had, once again, Bruce Lee, in the Green Hornet, and they're like, yeah, but like he was the sidekick, and it's like, no, he wasn't the sidekick. Actually, that was kind of the point of that character. Is it's they've got to fit that narrative or whatever, and ignoring the fact that they erased another character, like an Asian character in that actually owns the 10 rings and runs that, the Mandarin, in favor of like going like, well, how can we get rid of that character and make something less, I don't know, problematic, or I don't know what they were thinking with that, man.
Well, I mean, especially since I kind of deal with a lot of retro stuff, and just discovering how many people don't know about the things that preceded them. I mean, I just chalk it up to ignorance, but and I don't necessarily blame him. I definitely blame society for not really giving us like actually I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody, because I think it's left to each individual to kind of find their own to find out what happened, where who was the first, and it's up to you to do the research to find out what the earlier movies are that inspire the things that you love or the things that you want to do, because that's what I'm hearing from a lot of the younger generation of actors. It's just the lack of knowledge of where or who has done what they are doing now ages ago. None of it is new. Yeah. Which is you're not special. They want to hear that they're special, and that's something that a lot of people don't want to accept.
Exactly. It's like this. The history only started, with them, and it's just like no, it really did not. People want to see authentic stories from other cultures told and presented in an authentic way. If I'm going to see the Northmen, I do not want to see a bunch of Asian people as Vikings. If I go, like, say, if I want to watch, an Asian film, I don't expect to see like a bunch of white people in it. I mean, it really is insulting. It's insulting to the culture, and it really takes away the chance for you, to learn. Like, I look at these scenes in Shogun, and I'm like, I've been to the Japan Pavilion, I don't know how many times at Epcot, but there is an actual like entrance into like it looks like into to a Japanese capital, Japanese fortress that looks exactly like this, and all of the costuming that they have, all of it, is all of it's authentic. And I just looking at this, you look at it, and with the quality of this show, you are transported back literally to that point in time. Yes, there are European ties, but it fits with the history of the times. You had, the Portuguese who were basically, out there first trying to get riches from the east to bring them, to the west. Their little clandestine base in Macau. So go up and look up the history of Macau. All of that lines up, and that's one of the lovely things about this series. They're not preaching to you. They're not
That's
preaching
new.
to you. Yeah, they're not preaching to you at all, and they're just telling you this story about this daimyo who finds himself in a very untenable position. And you're just how is this dude going to live through all this?
How many episodes are there so far?
It is 10 total. 10
Maybe
total.
I'll check it out.
They released it each week, which I'm glad that they did, because everyone ended on a cliffhanger. And you're just like, I got to go back. I got to go back and find out what happens in this show. I mean, and all the characters, I know I'm kind of monologuing here, but I'll let some other folks talk to, especially who've seen the show. No characters are wasted in this miniseries.
Shout out to Arlene Nova with a comment saying, "Don't deny me my Filipino biking ancestry."
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And actually, I want to get the Bosco super chat too. Thank you so much for that $10 Canadian super chat, Bosco. Guy Scar was on the show last week. Thank you for those. Let's see, 5 loonies and 5 toonies. No.
Yes, 5 toonies.
5 toonies and 10 loonies. Okay, there we go. I can do math.
5
Thank
toonies
you.
or 10 loonies. Yeah.
Thank you. This show was great because it kept true to the culture thanks to Hiroyuki Shinada not bending the knee. We'll be reading the book. This has been a breath of fresh air. Makes me want more. Well, thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree. This series has made me want to go back and read the book. Probably will get the audio book because I'm way too darn busy, but I still want it. It truly is a breath of fresh air when stories are authentic that just grab you in and you just want to see what happens and you feel like you're in that time period. It's just amazing. This is just me, and other folks who have seen it can opine. I did not find my time wasted when watching this. I'm actually going through my second watch of the series now that I have all the episodes, because there's stuff that you didn't really pay attention to, and it turns out to be relevant like at the end, and it's like, okay, what did I miss in the beginning? Yeah. It is just a pleasure to go back and watch and just get immersed in a story and people's motivations and not think, okay, what lecture am I going to get? Am I going to get told, how evil, Europeans are and colonialism and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're not going to get that. You're going to get Hiroyuki Sanada's character, who finds himself in a very, very untenable position when the one shogun dies, and then I think the heir apparent is too young, so he has to rule in his place, which makes him enemies with all the other daimyos, and he has to figure out how to navigate this. And when John Blackthorne shows up, Englishman craps on the shores, he's just like, how can I make this work for me? And that literally is the whole thing. How can I get this to work for me? You have a love story between John Blackthorne and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name. it's a darn shame that I forgot Mariko. Mariko, who is a Christian convert, but she's a Catholic. John Blackthorne has issues with her because she's a Catholic and he's a Protestant. But you find this love story that develops because Mariko speaks Portuguese, speaks English, and speaks Japanese. So you'll get these translated things between the two of them. And there's moments that only the two of them share together as they learn each other's culture. And that's another thing. You know, Hollywood forgets, you know, some of us actually do want to see romantic stories that that go on and see that relationship that develops when you see the beauty in each other's culture and you try to meet in the middle, literally and figuratively, so to speak. It's just great to see. It's refreshing to see. There's tons of femininity in this show. There's tons of masculinity in this show, and it's just such a great watch. Such a great watch. Anybody else want to add anything onto Shogun?
This, I mean, the photos that you're showing right now are they're just spectacular and really do highlight the costumes. I believe we were talking about that either before the show or during this time here. I mean, it just, the costumes look absolutely amazing, and yeah, you would be underserving this material by attempting to inject forced diversity into it. It is so great that we can actually have something so authentic and so true to the actual the actual material, the source material for this. It's interesting whenever you have like these historical epics like this or genre films and so forth. To force diversity into those things in such a manner that it really kind of breaks the escapism. It breaks the immersion that you would otherwise have. So it's really important that be preserved and maintained. And it's so reassuring that they actually have done that here. And yes, like you said, Lorna, depth of romance. Come on, where can we get some romance in some of these films and so forth or TV shows? It's great that they featured that as well.
Yeah, here they are. I love it.
There you go.
It was so
Love
good.
it.
Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. It was so amazing. So yeah, definitely do check out Shogun. 10 episodes. It's available on Hulu and also on oh my gosh, I don't want to say Freebie. I think I saw it on Freebie too. So worth watching. Highly suggest that you check it out, especially if you love period dramas. It's amazing.